I know I keep saying this, but I think there should be some music ongoing. So thank you all very much for joining today's QualLab Lunch Talk. And this is one of the most popular topics that we have received, which is about funding. Do they even fund qualitative research? So today we have the honor and pleasure to have the two distinguished guest speakers, Dr. Kimberly Lightle and Dr. Penny A. Pasque, to talk more on the funding of qualitative research. And today's talk is moderated by Dr. Pasque, who is professor and director of the QualLab and our QualLab team. So as you can see on the slides, we're featured as a team there. So we want to acknowledge the land that we're in. We're located on the indigenous land of the Shawnee, Miami, Lenape, and Wyandot nations. And today's lunch agenda is very straightforward. First, we'll have Dr. Pasque to give us a welcome and give us a brief introduction of the QualLab. And then we will have our guest speakers to give us the talk. And then we'll open the floor for questions and answers. And at the end, you will also have the opportunity to see how to get involved with the QualLab. And yeah, we will go from there. So, Dr. Pasque, please state your word of welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be in the space with you all. Again, we do QualLab lunches, as you know, once a month. And I have to give a shout out to the QualLab team. So we are a research center and we specialize in really advancing and helping to further qualitative work with faculty, postdocs, grad students in our college, but also like this, sometimes offer sessions that are online for people outside of the college and within the college. So the team is fantastic and they really have so many resources for you on the websites. And while we talk about some of the basics about qualitative work, we also are sure to focus on issues of innovation, equity, diversity, and social justice, which is important to us, that the work really makes a difference in the field. We provide for people in the college one-on-one consultations, and we also host events like this. I'll also let you know that today's event is really focused on information for the College of Education and Human Ecology and some of the resources, but some of it might transcend to different colleges and universities across the country. So we welcome you either way. So I'll pass it back to Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pasque, for your vision and welcome. Just a few housekeeping items for today's session. Please feel free to turn on your video camera and also turn off your microphone when the speakers are in session. And later on, we'll have the question and answer session, so feel free to unmute yourself during that time. And please also be aware this session is being recorded and the video will be posted on our website, and feel free to check that out. And also, as you're aware, our closed captioning is provided during the session. So if you would like to turn it off, feel free to do it from your own screen as well. Yes, so this comes to the exciting part, but first and foremost, I want to introduce a very, very special member of our team, Ms. Faustina Mensah. Faustina is an international student from Ghana, and she is our intern extraordinaire. She's currently doctoral student from Ohio University, and her two specializations are in higher education and student affairs, and also educational research and evaluation. Fausti, could you please introduce our speakers? Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. Hi, everybody. It is my honor to introduce to you Professor Kimberly Lightle. She received her PhD in Educational Studies in 1995 from The Ohio State University, the College of Education, with a focus on science teacher education. She has been funded through 5 National Science Foundation programs, that is National STEM Digital Library, Discovery Research K through 12, International Polar Year, Climate Change Education, and Geoscience Education, as well as the Ohio Board of Regents and NASA, with budgets totaling more than $7 million. In her duties as the Director of Research, she supports faculty in the identification of funding opportunities and the development and submission of proposals, as well as compliance-related issues on sponsored projects. I'm also honored to present Professor Penny A. Pasque. She is a professor in educational studies, the director of qualitative methods, and our director at the QualLab in the Office of Research, Innovation, and Collaboration at the College of Education and Human Ecology at The Ohio State University. In addition, she is the editor of the Review of Higher Education, which is considered as one of the leading research journals in the field of higher education. Her research addresses complexities in qualitative inquiry, including critical advocacy research. You can find Dr. Pasque's research in over 100 journal articles and books. So for more information about our distinguished professors, please save the links to their personal pages, which we've posted in the chat box, and stay connected with them. So back to you, Ruth, and we are really honored to have such honored guests with us to teach us a lot.
Thank you so much, Pasque. And now let's welcome our distinguished speakers, Dr. Lightle and Dr. Pasque, for your talk.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Appreciate it. Kim's going to pull up the PowerPoint and really start us off here, and I'm looking forward to it.
Did I do it correctly? Can you see the slides? Beautiful. Right. So Dr. Pasque, why don't you get us started?
Hey, Kim and I, Kim is, as mentioned in that wonderful introduction, is a director and I am as well in the Office of Research, Innovation, and Collaboration. And we were talking about how often in colleges of education, people think that the national funders, the Spencers, Luminas, NSF, NIH, they don't fund qualitative research, but that's really a myth. They actually do, and we see it more and more. So today we were looking forward to sharing with you a bit of information about what they expect, the personalities of the funders, so that way, hopefully you'll have a better shot of getting funding, or at least thinking about your different options for funding. Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. So Penny gave you a little bit of an introduction about why we pulled this presentation together. We want everyone to write proposals, get external funding for more graduate students so that you can do more work and make more of an impact. So there are opportunities, and we wanted to share those with you. We've got some examples of some qualitative projects, and I think Ruth just sent out a spreadsheet with a bunch of examples, just to get the juices flowing and say, oh, well, I do that too. Oh, there's a possibility. Then we're going to talk about how you can find some funding yourself, and then some personalities of funders, and then qualitative options. Of course, Penny's going to focus on that part. And then finally, we can have some discussion and some Q&A. All right. So, like Penny said, there's some examples, okay? And so the spreadsheet has a lot that Ruth shared, has a lot more updated examples, but they're not, the examples are not getting fewer, they're getting more. So that's, so there is opportunity. So Penny, did you want to say anything about any of these specific types of methodologies or?
Absolutely. I think, and also a shout out to Ruth and Fosti, who really, Fosti updated this list for us. So, and then the group that came before, E. Alexander and Sina Saeed, and they really scoured the websites and came up with this list of here are qualitative or mixed methods examples for you that already have been funded. So take a look at that list. They're also on here, some examples, but if you take a look, for example, the ethnographic investigation of trust and distrust in the expansion of education, in the expansion of the language of fraud. I know in teaching and learning, we offer courses on ethnography, and people just sometimes we don't always think that there is funding for ethnographic research. And so here's a great example from NSF. And then also there are some NSF examples of mixed methods research. So really collaborating with colleagues, or as many of us have done, myself included, in terms of funding, collaborating with people in the med school. For example, Ruth and I right now are working on a project with a group in the med school on a research project, and that's on our ed study side of things, and we're the qualitative side of the project on this research with the medical school and young children with some eye issues. And so they appreciate the knowledge that we have in the College of Ed as on qualitative as well as education work. So.
Wow. Well, and one more thing in terms of this slide, another misconception that people have is that NSF only funds STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They also have economics, they have government, they have how people learn, not just in the STEM fields, but so it's a very broad, a broad set of portfolio. Basically, they do most everything but not health, which of course is NIH. So, so very broad, and you can see that reflected in these titles.
Kim, did you have an NSF grant during your career?
Oh, I had like $6 million worth
of
stuff, funding. Yeah, and I still review for them. I'm associated with a couple programs, so, and I have program officers that know their friends. So yeah, I'm still very much involved in National Science Foundation work.
So another perfect reason why you're the one doing this presentation for everyone.
Well, at least with NSF. Well, here's some examples from NIH, and Penny, you were just talking about some sort of a focus on something.
Eyes, yes, with a collaboration with the medical school.
Yeah.
And then, NIH here, I know is some of the faculty in human sciences go after NIH grants, and it fits with their work. Action ethnography is another one. Ethnography you don't always think of, and here it is with NSF. And so where possible, we were trying to make sure that the methodology was here, or the methods, and also the topics. So diverse participation in medical research, looking at ethnographic interviews with older age cognitive impairment, which is adult learning, which is also in the College of Education and Human Ecology. So again, these are examples that might be useful for you.
Oh, and here are some examples from IES, and that's the Institute for Education Sciences, which is funded through the U.S. Department of Education. They are very specific in their call that they don't want, that they would much rather have mixed methods, I think, than just straight quantitative methods or straight qualitative. I think they believe that both, tell the story. But you can see that there's some just very different types of methodology. And of course, it has to relate to the questions you're asking. Do you see any interesting ones in here, Penny?
I So I'm taking a look at the single case design case studies. There are courses on case study. I know in some of the classes that I teach, we talk about case study, and someone that I'm working with now in the advanced class is doing a case study. And so this is often great design for case study, and you have a specific case study, but if you have the quant data or documents that you're looking at and interviews and or focus groups. I know not with IAES, but with NSF, I think Anne-Marie Nunez right now, a faculty in our college, is working on something with interviews and focus groups and a lot of data and this larger study with Hispanic serving institutions. She's also the guest speaker this Friday with the Student of Color so student support symposium, grad student support symposium. So if you're interested in talking about research and how to engage a research community, then I want to encourage you to come there if that fits for you. Yeah,
Great.
the next.
Oh, some Spencer. So now we're talking much less money, although Spencer does have a couple big programs, but here we're talking about a foundation, not a federal funder. And we're going to talk about specifics about all of these funding agencies in a little while, but these examples were just hopefully to give you some context and some just insight into the kinds of projects that they are funding.
And now here you see the methodological approaches and the methods expanding a bit. So critical theory and ethnographic research, critical diversity framework, you see grounded theory. So it expands in terms of the methodological approach and also in terms of the topics. But I have to say, NIH is pretty advanced and cutting edge regarding issues of regarding topics that are pretty cutting edge around race and ethnicity and international students, and really kind of pushing the edge on some things in innovative ways that we wouldn't always maybe expect in the just some of our stereotypes, right? But Spencer, and we'll talk about it in a little bit about their personality, but about why you can see that here. But I just wanted to point out the examples here have shifted in terms of what Spencer funds.
Good point. Okay, so on to finding funding. So if you are faculty or a researcher in this college, I do send out a monthly newsletter. It's called Finding Funding. And so you will receive that. But if you are a graduate student, you are more than welcome. I mean, I would encourage you to reach out to me specifically, and we could talk about your ideas and potential funding. So that is definitely one of the things that I do in my position. Every funding opportunity that I find, goes into this funding database. The platform was free, so you get what you pay for. It's kind of clunky, but it still works, and it allows us to catalog and tag funding opportunities specific to EHE. So I would encourage you to search that database. And then the university actually licensed the SPIN Info Ed database. And this database is free to any Ohio State student, researcher, faculty, it doesn't matter. And what you do is that you actually create a profile of yourself and the things that you're interested in, the topics, but it's also you can say, I'm an international student, I'm from California, I'm in my dissertation year, so you can describe yourself. And what happens is that the thousands of funding opportunities that come through that company every day, if there's a match, you will get an email. So that is really very nice. And especially if you're I would use this a lot because I would know that NSF was going to be coming out with a call, but I didn't know exactly when. And of course, the spin keeps track of all that. And then I would get an email that would say, hey, this is available. So that was very convenient for me. And when I put in like early childhood education or whatever it happened to be, I would get, of course, funders, foundations, state funding. I mean, there was a lot of different types of funding that would come into my email box, which was great. So I would encourage everyone to sign up for one of those accounts.
Can we have Krista from, I think, English? And she was asking about Jeff Agnoli. And is he at the university level, or does he send things out to the whole university, or what is his role in relation to you and the work here?
Yeah. Well, we're really good friends. So, so Jeff actually just took a new position. He was with the Research Development Office, and ERIC, ERIC, and I don't even know what it stands for, but it's the Ohio State Office of Research. But he just took a new position and is not going to be doing spin and all the other kinds of things that like limited submissions and all that. He was in charge of all those. He won't be doing those anymore. But I don't. But I am sure if somebody knew him and asked him for help, that he would absolutely give it.
Or somebody who is going to take the job after, if there's a call.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who that person is yet. But at this point, I'm not sure who's taking Jeff's place. But I'm sure.
But Jeff is connected to the Info Ed spin.
He used to be
on the screen right now. Okay, makes sense.
I was gonna say I don't have it on here anymore, do I?
Oh yes, that's what I see on my screen. The Ed EHE funding opportunity database.
Oh, wait a minute. So on this slide, do you see EHE funding opportunities database?
And then I also see the spin link.
Yeah. So the Info Ed spin, do you see Jeff Agnoli's name on that?
Oh, somebody asked in the chat about him. So I just thought you probably, as this presenter, you were talking. So I just thought I'd add in the chat into the conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Jeff used to help people with this. Like he would help set up profiles. He would do searches for you, but that's no longer in his bailiwick. But I don't know who is replacing him, if anybody. Now, if somebody needs help, I can sort of help you. You know, I'd be willing to give it a shot. But it really is pretty self-explanatory. And we have a video that Jeff took of himself teaching how to do this. So we could always share that as well if people had questions. Okay. All right, what's next? Oh, personalities of funders. Okay, well, let's get through this. Okay, so Spencer.
Oh yes, can I say like personalities of funders? So I was a department head before coming to Ohio State. And so I got to connect with a lot of people throughout the department of 850 graduate students and 60 faculty. I mean, it was pretty large, as well as coming up assistant, associate, full endowed, right? Coming up through the field. Kim and I get to know the personalities kind of each funder and how they're a little different. And so we thought that would be helpful to share.
Absolutely.
So, sorry, take it away. I just thought that context would be helpful.
And I never really thought about personalities. I just know about them. But Penny was like, oh yeah, they're all different. And I was like, yeah, that's a good way to think about it. So, well, so Spencer, like we said before, it's a foundation. And I have in here, basically, they don't care your topic. I mean, they're not looking, well, they do have a couple programs where they're very specific about like equity or something, but their general programs are truly not specific to any topic, population. It says just education research that cultivates learning and transforms lives. So that's pretty darn broad. high quality, innovative research on education broadly conceived from pre-K to grade. And I'm not sure if I put that in there or not, but pre-K to grade, we've used that term for a long, long time. So adult learners, grandmas like me, and NSF is in the same boat. I mean, they want everyone to learn and continue to be, learning new things. So that's what this is about as well. And so multiple programs, they have conference grants. So I know Penny's very interested in trying one of those soon. And they have, so recently they have had some programs that specifically talked about equity. Most have 1 or 2 submissions date per year. You can read those. Sometimes you get comments, sometimes you don't. I think sometimes if the program maybe was overwhelmed, with submissions, maybe they triage. And so only the top proposals maybe get reviewed like by a panel. I'm not quite sure exactly how it works, but there is an awards search. There is no search, but if you're interested in like a Spencer Small, which is $50,000 over the life 2 years, then you can look in that program and see what's been funded.
What I appreciate about Spencer, if you notice, they have put out intentional calls for equity grants the last couple of years with all that's happened with Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, all the things that have been going on now. They were really intentional about putting out a call for an equity grant. The group that's there is intentional about reading for paying attention to really making a difference and change. And that's one of the things I appreciate about the personality, if you will, about Spencer. Like Kim said, what I've found in conversations with colleagues and with my own grants is that with Spencer, you might not get any feedback, as she said, but if your proposal gets up there and it's being considered in one of the later rounds, maybe, or I'm just speaking as somebody on the outside, not the inside, or if it almost made it, I find that that's when my colleagues and I have received more thoughtful feedback with, and also, and apply again, consider applying again, right? With some really intentional feedback. But then other times people have said they haven't received any feedback. And so what just anecdotally might not be true, we found to get more feedback that's been really helpful if it progresses.
Good. All right, well, let's keep going. One of the things that I saw on the website that I thought was very poignant was this Spencer program officer was asked, after 5 years of reading and judging grant applications, what advice do you have? And think about whether they have made the case for the significance of their work. This is not unique to Spencer, believe me. But I just really, really liked that, the significance and the urgency. And I think probably we've all read stuff and that we've just been like, okay, so what? How will this make a difference? Why should I give this person $50,000 or $1 million or whatever it is? So really making the case for why it's significant and why it is needed is very important anytime you write a proposal, and that people lack detail in sharing their methods. So that went right back to what QualLab does, and the whole idea of making sure that the method is clear and that it relates to those research questions that you have. But I like that.
Yes. So QualLab, we are here for College of Education and Human Ecology with consultations if you're doing grants or your research papers for publication, dissertation work, anything except for coursework, go to your respective faculty member for that. But we focus on methods and really the design, the research design, and give attention to, is it the analysis process that lacks clarity? Is it the conceptualization of the design? And help that way. So in conversations with the dean, he's been, intentional about, I wish we could help people outside the college with the consultations, but we are just a small team and don't necessarily have those resources. But, so that's why we try to do things that are available outside, or contact us and we'll see if we can work up a contract or something like that. But really, we try to make sure that the information that we have like this is available as much as possible. So know you have that support. And I really also want to echo and appreciate what Kim's saying about the so what. Grant funders want to fund things that are strong, that make a difference. Their name is on things. So think about it also from their perspective of, here's this just entire group of fantastic proposals and some that are okay or maybe not so clear. So that's one of those ways that people can distill which are the ones we want to fund. And it really is a place where they have the funding. They want to work with you on that. In the conversations I've had and the funding that I've received from Kettering Foundation or other places, it really is about creating that together based on your knowledge and expertise as a faculty or a grad student or a postdoc.
Absolutely. All right, well, here's another funder, and Lori Patton Davis was just funded through Lumina at $250,000. So we do have some experience in the college with this foundation. And I think, Penny, you put it in here because you have a relationship with some of the people at Lumina.
Yes, Jamie Marasotis came from the Institute on Higher Ed Policy when I was a doc student. I met him and, we just tweet out once in a while, but he's doing such powerful work there. But now that he's been at Lumina and executive director or president of Lumina, I've really watched him work with a group about trying to make a difference with, for example, getting people who have stopped out of higher ed finished. What is it going to take to get people done? How do we work on that across the field, for example? So again, another funding source that really is about the so what and making a difference. And so, yep, Lori with her great Lumina grant and all that will hopefully do exactly that, make a difference. I've also been involved with Lumina grants with some of the DACA work, and that's been incredible. Their space is incredible, going there to conference and bring together groups of scholars and activists and students who are talking about DACA and dreamers and working on the importance with that.
Sounds great. Well, here's another foundation. Of course, we're not hitting them all. I mean, we just happened to pick these three because we knew a little bit about them. But the William T. Grant Foundation, they do have a scholars program. One thing about William T. Grant is, and I think it's the next slide, some of their calls are limited submissions. And so you have, maybe you only can, and I know for a fact, the scholars program, there can only be one from education, one from the hard sciences, one from chemistry, one from engineering, one from whatever. And so we've had limited, when they're limited, if people are interested in these, then we have to vet them with the Ohio State Office of Research, Eric. And yeah, so again, you have to be very careful. You always read the call very carefully to find out, what you're allowed to do and who's allowed to submit and so on and so forth. But these major grants from William T. Grant, sometimes so it's just really important for you to understand the scope of these calls, and sometimes you can't submit to certain programs because at the university, they're already working with another group of people for a certain program. So I'm going to go ahead and move this forward.
With
And
the grant, I think that's important to mention. I know you'll mention that. Stay in contact with your Office of Research about which grant, because of that very reason. Also with grant, I know Kim and I talked about this as a department head. I watched a team of K-12 policy scholars work with the William T. Grant Foundation, and it was more hands-on as a grant funder versus some of the others. You have your grant, go do your work, give us the final report, excellent. And then grant was really involved throughout the process. So that's something to know in terms of the personalities about the funders. How hands-on or off are they? And how much do you want hands-on, which can be wonderful, or hands-off, which can also be wonderful.
yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
Well, so what Penny said is absolutely true. I don't care if it's $5 and you're a graduate student or you're a researcher, you're a postdoc. If you are considering submitting a request to anybody external to Ohio State, please contact our office. You can contact me. You can contact Michael Moses. You can contact Shauna Davis. You can contact Natasha Slesnik. Doesn't matter. But we are the ones that are going to help you navigate the process of submitting that request for external funding. And onto this slide, when it's a foundation, we're going to say, why don't you talk to Christina Markle as well, just to see sometimes, and I never get these letters right, 503B, is that a thing? 50C3? B, whatever it is.
C3.
Right. So if we have, sometimes foundation require a not-for-profit status, we absolutely have that. But you just got to do some things, you know, and the foundation office is fantastic. They will actually help with editing, with pulling pieces and parts together. And sometimes they will submit on your behalf. Sometimes they'll tell you, no, you can't submit to that because we're already doing something, or so, but always reach out to our office. You know me now, so reach out to me. And then we'll also, if it's a foundation, we'll reach out to Christina Markle and get her input and see what the best way would be to submit to a foundation. All right, let's keep going. Now, personalities to some feds. I'm gonna kind of go through these fast. So first of all, NSF, the National Science Foundation. Again, you'd think they would be STEM focused, and of course they are. They do hard sciences a lot, not health, but education is a huge part of their raison d'etre. I probably didn't say that word right, but they really, education is super important. And so it is, it's a basic and applied research, but education, behavior, economics, politics, and law, but not health. Okay. So they fund graduate students, early career researchers, international collaborations, so on and so forth. And in terms of the review process, you don't know who is reviewing your proposals, but the program officers basically make the decision. So building a relationship with those program officers, making sure that what you're wanting to do is aligned with the program you're going to submit is really, really important. And so, and the review process, of course, is what you're trying to, you're trying to be successful. And those review processes are different depending on the funder. So, okay, let's keep going. So here's an example of an NSF funding opportunity. This is the Core Research. And I like this one because in the call, it says both qualitative and quantitative methods are um, see, that are relevant. Let's see, seeks to activity on topics that are relevant to qualitative and quantitative research methods and design. I'm telling you, a few years ago, that would not have been in there. Okay. So NSF has evolved in terms of their, I remember first couple times I got funded, there wasn't even a research questions. They didn't even require research questions, you know, so believe me, they are evolving. They also see the importance of equity and diversity and inclusion, and they are funding more and more programs specific to those topics. And they're doing a racial equity program right now, and there's no limit to funding. They are looking for big, important, transformative projects to fund. So they really are, you know, pushing that as well. So I wanted to share with you an opportunity, April 12th, a man named Corby Horvis. I know him very well. It's a crazy name, I know, but he is a wonderful presenter. He is so knowledgeable about the education, both research and development, the curriculum projects, as well as the basic research in education, supported by NSF, not just in STEM, but economics, behavior, law, blah, blah, blah. And so he is going to talk to us about those opportunities. So if you would like to, you can go ahead and register and join us and learn a little bit more about NSF from Corby. Next we have, NIH, okay. So the National Institutes of Health, there's an S on those in that word institutes. There are multiple centers, institutes, you know, the National Institute of Aging, the National Institute on Cancer, the mental health. There's lots of these different institutes, and every institute or center has a distinct mission that focuses on a specific disease area, organ system, or stage of life. And they have standard submission dates, so usually 3 times a year, depending on the call, but normally 3 times a year. And there's all of these types of grants. There's research grants, there's training grants, there's career, you know, center grants, and we can help you navigate all of those and figure out what is the best call, what is the best type to submit to. And the peer review process is not anonymous. Of course, NSF is anonymous. NIH is not anonymous. You are going to know who is going to be on the study session that your proposal is reviewed by. And, you know, you better know their research, and you better, you know, and you work with program officers to make sure that your proposal is going to the correct study session, because you actually choose which study section you want it to go to, or you don't have to, but you can. And then the program officers are not part of the review process, which is interesting because I'm so familiar with NSF. The program officers are in there, you know, they want a proposal funded, boy, they're going to go to the whatever that's something, the wall for you. But, you know, so it's just a very different review process. And, you know, talk to program officers, what FOA funding opportunity announcement and what study section. And of course you can search, they have a really good search engine over all their projects, programs that they funded. So another good one. We have actually multiple people from NIH coming in that same week in April. And this one is Tuesday, April 12th from 2 to 4. And we're going to hear from people from the National Cancer Institutes, National Institutes on Aging, and also on mental health. And they're going to talk about the review process. They're going to talk about the different opportunities. So we hope to see you at that as well. And then IES, Institute of Education Sciences, again, U.S. Department of Education. That RFP is not out yet, but they come out May, end of April, maybe April-ish, and those are due in August. And again, it's not, the review process is not secret, and the program officers have nothing to do with the selection of proposals. Program officers are willing to read 10 pages if you get it to them in time. You know, so again, it's just a different way of looking at the world and providing feedback.
I would suggest that you come up with your idea and concept and talk right away with your Office of Research and your program officer within the college that you're working in, and then also take your timeline and back it up so that it's not a scramble for you, for the Ohio State College, or the whole university, because they have to also approve it. So make sure that you're thinking about your timeline and every step, the budget, working with your budget officer, paying for grad students and postdocs. The amounts change for salary every year, or stipends. So making sure you're in conversation with multiple players is important for any of these grants.
Right. And that is what, in the College of Education and Human Ecology, the Office of Research, Innovation, and Collaboration, of which I am the Director of Research, that is what we do. We help people put timelines together. We create budgets. We know what the fringe is. We know what graduate students cost. We are never asking our PIs, whether they're graduate students, postdocs, researchers, or faculty. We're not asking you to do that. We're asking you to focus on the science, on the narrative, what you want to do, working with QualLab to get that methodology tight, you know. And so we do all the other stuff, and you will never, ever submit a proposal without letting our Office of Sponsored Programs know and us know. It just is not a good, it's not a good look. Things go really badly sometimes. So just always reach out to us and give yourself plenty of time, and we'll help you through that process. Absolutely. All right, so what do we got next? Oh, we have another webinar. So that same week in April, we have program officers from Institute for Education Sciences. They're going to do a webinar for us. And you can see they have about 23 topics. If you actually look at this ies.ed, the funding page, you'll see that they have, gosh, 20 maybe? Maybe I even put it in here somewhere. Well, they have a lot of topics. And what you'll do is you then submit to that topic. And we have, gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got about 10 of those programs represented here with these program officers, and they're going to talk about what they're looking for this next submission, which will be in August. So that is Thursday, April 14th. Hope to see you there.
I have to say, this is phenomenal. I've been at other institutions where they'll bring in one foundation, but the work that you have done, Kim and team, to bring into the college these different webinars with different funders is so appreciated. I know Kim has worked pre-COVID with trips to take faculty and people to DC to meet people, but you know, this makes it accessible to more people, and thank you so much. Is this specific to the College of Ed and Human Ecology, or anybody at Ohio? Is it specific to Ohio State? People outside of the university? That might help, because I think we have people from all those different groups here.
You know what? Anybody can come. Seriously. I mean, we know that I mean, IES, of course, is national, and these are the folks that are going to talk about their programs. So, you know, career and technical, they're just going to talk about it. And I don't think no, we are not saying, oh, it only can be EHE or whatever. No, anybody that wants to come. And I actually shared all of these with Arts and Sciences and CFAs. You know, I shared them across the university. You know, the more the merrier. You know, we hope a lot of people join us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so here you go. This is yours, Penny.
Yes. All right. rigor means something very different in every different type of paradigmatic approach, methodological approach, etc. But it matters to funders that it is a rigorous design, that you are really looking at your methods, thinking about matching your methods to your question, your lit review, your design, your methods for interviews or focus groups, etc., all match. It's also called congruence, that your design is tight, that it makes sense to readers who may or may not be in your specific area of expertise, right? So as somebody in higher ed, for example, somebody in a different area like adult ed or in K-12, somebody else might be reading my work. So you want to make sure that it's clear, that it's tight. And also, there are a lot of articles. Betty St. Pierre is one of them, who has written about the funders in the field, the dynamics of the field, and some of the questions of rigor in the field, and just thinking that through. If you are asking for funding from a funder, what are their expectations? And if you don't match their expectations, well, then maybe you should look for a different funder, right? Where there's a better match. So making sure your design is tight and that your match to the funder is there as well is important, which is why Kim and I just spent a bunch of time talking about the personalities of funders as external people, that we can just try to help you in as many ways as we can. Also, think about the arc of an interview, meaning like they will look at every single part of what you're trying to get after. And if this interview could potentially answer the research questions asked, the in-depth analysis, I'd already talked about congruency, also making sure if these are outcomes that you're looking for, how are you going to make sure that these outcomes were mentioned at the end, right? So again, some funders want outcomes and they want it to be very clear, some not so much. They want it to be about the so what in a different way than a specific outcome, right? And so I think it's really important to think about your intentional design and congruency and the funder all together as you go through. QualLab, you can always see us for one-on-one consultations if you're in the college. And if not, we have worked with people outside of the college, Polaris, for example, in physics, people outside the university, Learning as Leadership. We had a contract with them where we contracted the work so that people could do it. And that way we can make sure the dean is right. We only have so many people. So talk to us if you need anything.
Okay. All right. I believe that is it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Lightle and Dr. Pasque, for your amazing talk. Now we know that they do fund qualitative research and in a lot of extensive ways. So your informative talk, it really gave us a lot of excitement. So we will open the floor now to for more interaction. I do have a question from our QualLab team. Chelsea raised the question, but I will leave the floor to our group first. Please unmute. Feel free to unmute yourself and yeah.
Are you gonna, anybody have a question? We would love it. If not, you know, of course, Ruth and Chelsea have one, but.
Yes. Let me go ahead and ask our question. So, is qualitative research more likely to be funded if it is a part of a broader mixed methods study? And are there particular funders who are more likely to fund strictly qualitative work that's not mixed methods? Thank you.
I think that's a great question. And as you saw with the examples and why we thought it was important to put together this great sheet that Pasque worked hard on to find what has been funded, recently as well and add to the list of what's been funded. That matters, right? And so you see NSF or NIH, for example, in Kim's example, she said NIH, they're asking for not just quant, but qual too, because in the past it might have been just quant, but qual is important. It should be there. And then congruence on the design with a mixed method study. What does that mean, right? In terms of paradigm, in terms of methods, in terms of approach. So there are some funders, I'm not going to say that they never do fund at the national level or with NIH or NSF funds anything that's purely qualitative, because maybe they have. There are also, I know NSF does convening grants around convening people. That's not quant or qual, that's a convening grant, right? So something pretty different. And then as we saw with the examples, places like Spencer and Lumina, who focus on education in just different ways than NIH or NSF or IES, they have funded qualitative, purely qualitative studies. But what does that mean, a purely qualitative, right? If you dive into the proposal, I think it would be interesting to find what paradigmatic approaches are most funded. Is it always the post-positivist approach? Is it post-structural in particular? Because it's post-structural policy analysis. We had earlier in January, we had Elizabeth Allen and Susan Iverson talk about their policy work, and that's post-structural work that has been funded. So think about like all of that in relation to the funders. But I would say Spencer, Lumina, it's pretty often they will fund only qualitative, and it's not mixed methods. Kim, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to add just one thing. I encourage everybody to talk to program officers.
Yeah.
Always, 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 always. So if you have a research question or two, maybe three, we don't get crazy with those research questions, or a specific aim, which is what NIH calls them, and that question is significant, or those couple questions are significant, and you believe that they're in fact going to align with what that sponsor or program is all about,
Mm-hmm.
but you can only use qualitative methods, whatever that means, to answer those questions, I would ask the program officer. I would share those questions. I would share what you want to do to create new knowledge, to, what is the impact? What are you thinking you're going to transform? And I would share that half a page or a page with a program officer and say, do you want to see this proposal? Don't ever just write a proposal because you think it sounds good. Ask a program officer, and they will absolutely provide insight into what they're looking for and whether what you want to do is what they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to talk to a program officer. It helps tremendously in terms of not wasting my time, helping you with the budget, or your time or the program officer's time. So that's my thought on that whole question. Ask the program officer.
Thank you so much, Drs. Pasque and Lightle. Thank you for your insightful answers. And we're quickly approaching the end of today's lunch talk. And just a quick reminder, we have exciting guest speakers coming in. Our next lunch talk will be featuring Dr. Z. Nicolazzo, and she'll be talking about the grief work in qualitative research. So please join us. And we have other activities going on. For example, our graduate student board. Please feel free to scan the QR code and join us. We'll do a lot of planning for the fall, and a lot of great ideas coming out from those brainstorm sessions. As Dr. Pasque mentioned, we also offer consultation services. So you can book us through the QR code here, our website, and you can also invite us for a classroom talk. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time and for your interaction during this this talk, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Bye, everyone.